Welcome to the NRL Punters Weekly Digest, your one-stop shop for everything you need to know leading into this week's NRL matches. This is our Round 5 Team List edition, and on Thursday, April the 8th, we have the South Sydney Rabbitohs taking on the Brisbane Broncos from Stadium Australia. For the Rabbits, Benji Marshall replaces the suspended Cody Walker at number 6. Jacob Host comes in for Keon Kolomatangi, who's also suspended. And rookie playmaker Dean Hawkins comes onto the bench for the Bunnies. For the Broncos, Herbie Farnworth is replaced by Richie Kenner. Herbie Farnworth is injured. I'm not sure how long he's out for, unfortunately. Richie Kenner slots in at left centre. Pat Carrigan, who's suspended, is replaced by Tavita Pangai Jr., who starts at lock. Tom Dearden and Anthony Milford are the starting halves for the Broncos, which means that Brodie Croft stays on the bench. My tip in this game is the Rabbits by 30, and it could be more. Our first Friday night game sees the Warriors take on the Sea Eagles from Central Coast Stadium. For the Warriors, Aden Fanua-Blake and Bailey Sirinen are out with injuries, and they are replaced by Leeson Aumau and Jack Murchie. Those players start in the back row and front row respectively. Other way around. Tohu Harris replaces Bunty Afoa, who's suspended at prop. And Caden Evans will make his Warriors debut from the interchange bench, while Tom Ale and Josh Curran join him on the bench. Paul Turner, who's tipped to switch to Brisbane in a player swap deal, which is a little bit unusual for the NRL. And that deal would include Brisbane Bronco boom youngster Reece Walsh. He is going to be named on in the extended squad, I should say. For the Seagulls, Tommy Turbo is still out, which means that Dylan Walker stays at fullback. Moses Sully's injury brings Morgan Harper into the mix. He's going to be starting in the centres, with Jack Kosieski replacing Morgan Boyle in the starting side. My tip in this one is the Warriors by 14. I think they're specials here. They could win by more. Panthers take on the Raiders. The Raiders in what could be the game of the round from Bluebet Stadium at 7:55 p.m. on Friday. For the Panthers, they are 1-17. What a luxury to have. It's a rarity in this competition. For the Raiders, Ryan Sutton moves to prop with Joe Tarpany returning from injury at lock. Ryan James drops back to the bench with Dynamis Louis moving down into the extended squad. So Papali'i and Sutton will start in the front row for the Raiders. I have tipped the Raiders by 2. I am purely tipping with my heart. I have no confidence in this game whatsoever for my boys. On Saturday, the Titans take on the Knights from Cbus Super Stadium. For the Titans, Brian Kelly returns from a hand injury. He fills in for Anthony Don, who's out. Philip Sami is moved to the right wing. Ash Taylor could return from injury. He's been named on the reserves bench, but don't be surprised to see him start. For the Knights, a lot to get through here. Bear with me. Kalen Ponga returns from a shoulder injury, which will certainly boost the club having their best player back. Texas. I love that name, Tex Hoy. He's definitely a Cowboy. Tex Hoy drops out of the 21. He was injured in last week's loss to the Dragons. Mitch Pearce is set to miss 10 to 12 weeks with his pectoral injury, which is a massive blow for the club. But they do have Blake Green stepping into his shoes, who will partner Connor Watson in the halves. Kurt Mann is out after suffering a head knock. Chris Randall, Pasami Solo, Brodie Jones are all on the bench for the Knights in a new look side. And David Klemmer, despite his knee injury, has been named to play. My tip in this game is the Titans by 10. I just think that the Knights are going to be too under strength to be able to take on a burgeoning Titans side. I'm not even sure what burgeoning means, but I think I can use it in that context. Bulldogs take on the Storm. I've written Stadium here. I think it's Stadium Australia, 5:30 p.m. For the Dogs, DWZ, Dallin Watene-Zelezniak returns from suspension. He slots in at fullback. Nick Meaney drops out of the side with that knee injury. Poor bloke. Josh Jackson and Luke Thompson. Prop Luke Thompson make their returns from injury. Huge boost for the Doggies. They really needed that. Renouf, Atoni, and Jack Hetherington move to the bench. I don't know how Jack Hetherington is playing this week. He should be suspended. I'm a big fan of Jack Hetherington. We share a surname, but he should be suspended. They move to the bench. Dean Brett and Joe Stimson drop out of the side. Lachlan Lewis is still injured with that head knock. He must be severely concussed if he's still not playing. They get Jake Averillo back from an ankle injury. He slots in at number 6, and Corey Allen moves to centre with Nick Kotrick taking his spot on the wing. For the Storm, if you're still with me after all that, Harry Grant has been named in the reserves, but don't be surprised to see him play. I can't see why Craig Bellamy would be wanting to do a little smoke and mirrors here. It's only the Bulldogs. They don't need Harry Grant to beat them. Felice Kafusi returns from suspension. Tom Eisenhuth drops back to the bench. Nelson Asofa Solomona, my pronunciation. Nelson Asofa Solomona and Tui Kamikamitha have switched roles from last week. Trent Loiro drops out of the 21, and Branko Lee is on the reserves. I've got the Storm by 40 in this game, but it could be more. It really could be more. Roosters Sharks, Saturday night, SCG. Who doesn't love a game at the SCG? I certainly do. Poor drainage there, though. Roosters, no changes. Despite all their injuries, no changes. Good signs for them. Sharks, Jesse Ramian returns from suspension. Big boost for the Sharks. They'll need him against a red-hot Roosters side. Connor Treacy moves to the bench, and Braden Trindle moves to the reserves. I've got the Roosters by 10 in this game, but I expect this to be one of the games of the round. Second to Panthers-Titans, so it could be closer. Sunday, Tigers-Cowboys. Tigers should absolutely do the Cowboys here. I've tipped them by 8. That is being respectful to the Cowboys. I kind of expect the Tigers to win by a little bit more than that, but I have faith that the Cowboys can bounce back to an extent, so we'll see what happens. Moses Mbai moves into the centres for Tommy Talau. This is for the Tigers, by the way. He moves into the centres. Tommy Talau moves to the wing, and Asu Kapoa drops out of the side, with Michael Cheekham coming onto the bench. For the Cowboys, JT returns from his broken hand at lock. Huge boost for the Cowboys. This pushes Josh Maguire back to the bench. Hamiso Tabuai-Fedo shifts from the wing to centre for Justin O'Neill, who is out with a head knock. And Kyle Felt returns from suspension on the wing. They really need his services there. Our final game of the round sees the Eels take on the Dragons in our third best game of the round. This is going to be an absolute cracker. For the Eels, Ryan Madison returns from a head knock into the back row. The back row. He returns into the back row. He pushes Isaiah Papali'i to the bench. Bryce Cartwright is set to make his Eels debut from the bench, and Keegan Hipgrave and Ray Stone drop to the reserves. For the Dragons, Jack Bird returns from a one-game suspension. Braden Williami drops to the bench, and Jackson Ford shifts to the reserves. I have the Eels by 7 points. That has been your NRL team list and my tips for round 5. I will see you next week.